Hi, good morning. It is Sunday, April 19th, almost 8 a.m. And for those of you who know what I'm referencing, the big project that I had been working on since August is being finalized and it will be published within 3 to 5 business days. My door's open. You're gonna hear the cats a lot today. I apologize. I think that's actually probably the happiest part about most of these videos, to be honest. So maybe they'll hop on my lap and I can show you. Now, before I truly start, I want to take a second to apologize about the way I spoke about the elderly woman that lived with us. I did not have my information correctly. Um, and to be honest, when I was relying on only my memory, a lot of things fell through the cracks, but luckily someone else was able to clarify that for me. It sounds like her hatefulness was warranted, um, and it was behavior that B and I partook in, that my parents partook in, and it was behavior that was normalized to me from a young age. Not that that excuses it, because now knowing what I do, that makes the situation 10 times worse. That makes me, I'm sorry is not enough, but for the sake of moving on, I will say I'm sorry. She was not a cruel person, um, and she deserved better. All right. I'm gonna keep moving on. So I want to go back to ninth grade for a second because I had memories poke up as they do when you talk about things. Um, I am going to call this woman Blossom. We are still very close best friends to this day. She is the Blossom to my Buttercup, and we have a Bubbles as well, which I'll get to later. So I actually want to go a little bit before the ninth grade. I want to go to the eighth grade. Um, Blossom was the very first friend that I made in this new school. And um, she didn't, it was easy for people to misunderstand her. And I feel like some people did so intentionally just to have a reason to be hateful. Um, but she's a very vibrant soul, very passionate, very lively. And she also knew what it was like to suffer. She had been bullied. And so we really latched onto each other that whole summer, that whole year. We were so close. We did everything together. Um, and I won't out her name, uh, but basically this other chick joined our friend group, who has the same name as Blossom. Um, so I'm gonna call her Possum. Why not? Okay, I think that's funny. So Possum was a little less emotionally stable. Looking in hindsight, I think she was dealing with a lot. Um, Maybe her home life wasn't that great from what I saw. I don't know. But I realize now that she was very evidently trying to put a wedge between Blossom and I's relationship. Um, and it worked. I had become really good friends with Possum, and uh, somewhere along the way, Blossom and I kind of lost touch throughout high school. Um, the thing is like during this time, Blossom had become like her family had become like my lifeline. Like her mother treated me like a daughter. Her mother loved me. Um, Blossom loved me. Um, and that was like I almost felt adopted in a way. I loved spending time with them. I loved going to the pool. And when I think about happy memories in my childhood, that's one of the main ones that pop up. Um, but once again, making the bad decisions Uh, and Possum and I broke off from Blossom, and then I kind of broke away from Well, I didn't really break away from Possum. She really broke away from me because she started dating this guy, and I don't know what to call him. I don't care. Let's just call him George. Fuck it. He's George. And George was really friendly. He'd always been really nice to me. But once they started dating, it became more than that to him. Um, and he began like lightly flirting with me, but I would brush it off and I would reference Possum. Um, I remember one time, uh, we were like standing in the center of like where all the locker areas are, and well, it was like I don't know, but we were standing somewhere. There were students walking by, in the between classes. I think it was after lunch. We were going to homeroom, and he hugged me, and he like I was wearing a skirt, and he like grabbed my bare thigh from behind and kind of moved it between my legs, like underneath my cheeks. And so I froze. It lasted very briefly, before he pulled away. And then I tried to brush it off and laugh it off and didn't think anything of it. Um, but then the next day at lunch, he put his hand on my thigh and gripped the inside of my thigh. Um, so I told my mother, and this is one time that she actually did take action to her credit. And so the school is called uh George George, I think that was his name. Yeah, he was pulled into the principal's office, and then that is when Possum turned on me and George as well, because George was not white, he was Hispanic, and um if we were to press charges, then they said he would be deported. Um so I dropped it. Um I think that in itself is enough for its own video, because I know now that that was sexual assault. And at the time, I blamed myself for getting him in trouble. Um, that is not the only instance of sexual assault in my story. And I will tell you that that same theme follows where I blame myself. Man, I really wonder if I share too much on these videos, but then I get like anxiety thinking about that. Like, it's like latent anxiety, like my chest tightens, and I'm like, I am sharing this to really anyone that is willing to or wants to watch it. And that's low key terrifying, but I also, um, I told myself I would do this, and I learned a long time ago that I can do anything I put my mind to. So if this turns into like trauma dumping, I apologize in advance. Let's be honest, it's low key trauma dumping, but I'm trying to stay somewhat objective about it. Um, yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna do it. If it's too much information, that is what it is. Y'all have a great day. I'm also gonna have a great day.